Our second topic in the fourth week is William Zinsser's essay Writing English as a Second Language. We will see the objectives and life and writings of Zinsser. Move on to discuss writing English as a second language. First we will begin with the structure of the speech. Actually this was given as a speech, it was later published as an essay. We will see good writing and good English, look at 3 sample letters and then discuss bad and good nouns and also refer to active verbs. We will see some sample writing from Thoreau Walden and also see certain principles of good writing and finally end the lecture. Here are our objectives for this presentation: to know about William Zinsser, his life and his writings, to examine his speech bar essay because this is both speech and essay as it was published later, to examine his speech bar essay Writing English as a Second Language in the context of learning English for communication through writing. This is very relevant to us. Life is all about learning a language and using a language throughout our life. To illustrate the example of good writing from Henry David Thoreau's Walden, to analyze the principles of good and bad English, and finally to learn a few best tips for good writing. As you can see, this presentation and the previous one are closely interrelated. How to write well, how to live our life well means how to write our life, how to speak about our life. Let's see Zinsser's life. William Zinsser was born in 1922 and he died in 2015. He was a journalist and an editor. He was a non-fiction writer. He was considered to be the writing guru for Americans, for writers, for journalists throughout the world. He is best known for his book On Writing Well. He was also a speaker and a teacher. He happened to teach at Yale University and Columbia University. At the end of his life, he left 18 books for us. Here is a quotation from him which is important for us. Clear thinking becomes clear writing. One can't exist without the other. So we can understand very clearly, clarity in thought results in clarity in expression. Now to move on to William Zinsser's writings, here are some examples. On the art of writing, he has many books. We have mentioned 3 here. On Writing Well, which was published in 1976, went on to see 30 editions and more. Second book is Writing to Learn, and the last one is Writing with a Word Processor when computers came into picture. He has written about his own life in the form of memoirs. Writing About Your Life is the first one and the second is Writing Places. And there are many other kinds of writings that he has given about travel, about baseball, about music. The first one is American Places, the second one is Spring Training, and the last one is Easy to Remember, the great American songwriters and their songs. So we can see a variety of interests in his life and in his writings. Now we come to the essay, the speech, Writing English as a Second Language. We have chosen this essay or speech primarily because we deal with so many second language learners and speakers and writers. So we thought it would be very useful for our students to learn about writing English as a second language. George Orwell spoke about English as a first language, but Zinsser spoke about writing English as a second language. That's why we have put them together in this course. The speaker of this essay is William Zinsser. He was a journalist, a traveler in Asia and Africa. He has traveled widely. The audience for this speech at that time when it was originally given was international students of journalism from various countries, not just from one country. When he gave this lecture, it was August 11th, 2009. The place is Columbia Graduate School of Journalism. Why did he give this speech? There was one professor, Elizabeth Fishman, who invited our writer William Zinsser to give this lecture. That's why that person is called instrumental cause. Why was he called? The purpose is to address the English needs of international students. We are also international students. We can read this essay and learn more about the use of English for effective communication. This writing is available in a journal called The American Scholar, which publishes article in 2010. We have given all the details in the references. You can refer to and collect the essay, read it and enjoy it, and of course learn from it. Here is the structure of the essay. There are about 10 topics. First is what is good writing, the second is what is good English, and then thirdly we have a brief history of English with reference to Latin and Anglo-Saxon vocabulary. We have some sample letters, and then we have a discussion on bad and good nouns. William Zinsser focuses on good nouns and active verbs. He considers them the best tools for a journalist or for any writer for that matter. We have a sample from Thoreau Walden as well. Then Zinsser discusses the principles of good writing, and he calls them clarity, simplicity, brevity and be yourself. There are two final thoughts at the end of the essay on new media and thought and sentence. Finally, we have some tips for good writing. We will look at all of them. To begin with, what is good writing? Good writing depends on the country and language. We can't say this is good, that is not good, because it is context dependent and also language dependent. In Arabic language, good writing refers to all adjectives and proverbs, decorative, pleasant, polite and courteous writing. Major factor in usage is this politeness, courtesy. There is also another factor that we have to consider. People would have the fear of the government, and it's not just a question of the language problem, it is also about politics and culture. So what is good in Arabic need not be good in English. He also gives the example of Spanish. Long sentences, melodious long nouns, emotional speech without any action, that is good for Spanish writing. So William Zinsser says what is good writing in Arabic or Spanish is not good writing in English. So we as second language learners, we may have a conception of good writing or speech in our own mother tongue in Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, Kannada, Hindi, Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati, Punjabi, Rajasthani. We may have so many other languages. What is good for us may not be good in English. We have to understand. That's why this essay is really useful for us. Then let's see what is good English. Zinsser defines good English with negatives. Remember what he studied in Orwell? He said don't use negatives. But there is a tradition in definition using negatives. Good English is not musical like Spanish, Italian or French. Good English is not ornamental like Arabic. Good English is not also vibrant like Asian and African languages. Then we have the positive definition of language here. According to Zinsser, good English is plain and strong, which has huge vocabulary of words with precise shades of meaning. English is useful for all subjects, including complex technical subjects. However, there is a caution. Zinsser says good English should be used in the right way. Here is a brief history of English language. We have to understand the nature of English. It is a heterogeneous language. That means it has borrowed words from almost all the languages of the world. However, there are two primary sources for English language vocabulary. One source is Latin and the other source is Anglo-Saxon vocabulary. Latin is flowery, Anglo-Saxon is plain. Florid means flowery. We will have some decoration or ornamentation in Latin language. But in English, that is the original Anglo-Saxon English, it's all about plain use of English. So Zinsser says the words derived from Latin are the enemy of English language. We will have long nouns ending in ion, ent, expressing vague concepts in Latin. Here is an example for this vagueness of language. Prior to the implementation of the financial enhancement, it means before we fixed our money problems. Which one is easily intelligible for all of us? Of course, the second one, before we fixed our money problems, can be understood by all of us, whereas the previous one, prior to the implementation of the financial enhancement, will be understood only by some elite people who have gone through a rigorous language training. In America also, English is Latinate. He is disturbed by this. That is why Zinsser discusses this Latinate use of English in American language. Latin English is routinely used in the government, business, education, social work and health care. Why do people use such Latinate English? The reason is they want to appear to be very important. If you use Latin, you sound important. You think you are more dignified, more respectable. Look at the weather person's language here. That is, one example is given here. A precipitation probability situation. No one would understand it. It means simply rain. Why wouldn't that weather person use such a language like rain? Because he is trained that way and he believes or she believes that using such language gives some importance to them. Instructions for ordering cell phones, computer manuals, application for bank loans, health insurance policy, everywhere all these instructions have elements of Latinate English, and he is not happy with that. What is the purpose of giving instructions to people? We want them to understand, fill in the applications correctly. No one understands them, not even Americans, including Zinsser and his wife. Well educated people find it difficult to fill in applications for this ordering cell phone or understanding computer manuals or application for bank loans or even for taking a health insurance policy. If Zinsser and his wife, well educated people, have difficulty, imagine people who live in America with less education. So Zinsser says American English is infected by Latinate usage. Infection is a metaphor that is used here to refer to the way in which American English is affected, infected, influenced by Latin language. Here is a sample letter that Zinsser discusses. This letter is from the president of a private club in New York. The letter is written to the member. So it goes like this. Dear member, the board of governors has spent the past year considering proactive efforts that will continue to professionalize the club and to introduce efficiencies that we will be implementing throughout 2009. The meaning, that is the interpretation of it, is simply that is the president is going to run the club better for the sake of members. Say that very clearly in one sentence. We are going to modernize or make our club better. That's enough. We have some examples of Latinate words and Germanic words. Germanic words are original Anglo-Saxon words. Cognizant means aware, inquire means ask, commence means start, execute means do, and consume means eat. The words, simple words like aware, ask, start, do and eat are the best ones according to Zinsser, and I do believe we should be able to use simple words so that we can reach all the readers, all the people in the world. Here is another letter, sample letter. This is written by the head of the New England boarding school. Let's see the letter now. As I walk around the academy and see so many gifted students interacting with accomplished, dedicated adults and consider the opportunities for learning that such interpersonal exchanges will yield, there are many more words, but Zinsser gives part of it. What is the meaning of this passage? Simple. Dedicated adults, boys and girls are talking to their teachers, nothing else. How is English vocabulary composed? What is the stock of English vocabulary? We have some percentage here. Of the 100% of English vocabulary, we have 25% from Germanic languages. From French, we have 28% of words, mostly Latinate, and then from Latin, that is classical and written Latin, we have 28%. Then we have some other words from Greek language, about 5%, and then from other languages of the world we have about 14%. So Zinsser tells us make use of the Germanic stock, that 25%, very simple words will help you to become a good writer or a good speaker. Here is sample letter 3. This is a letter from an investment agent. He writes to his customer. As we previously communicated, we completed a systems conversion in late September. Data conversions involve extra processing and reconciliation steps. We apologize if you were inconvenienced as we completed the verification process. Further enhancement will be introduced in the next calendar quarter. The simple meaning of this passage is, it took longer than we thought it would to make our office operate better. We hope we have got it right now. We are still working on it. So understand the problem that we are working on the system conversion. It may take more time than we expected. Hope it will be alright soon. Zinsser has a very poor opinion about bad nouns. He says American English is filled with bad nouns. What are the bad nouns? He gives some examples: conversion, reconciliation, enhancement, verification. Even some journalists, when they interview people, they use such words. For example, when journalists interview officials and immigrants, you ask a question, they will answer in nouns. That's why he feels unhappy. What are those nouns? There is a cluster of Latin nouns: facilitation intervention, affordable housing, minimum density zoning. Zinsser says these are not picturesque at all. How Zinsser wants to have a sentence here is given: new Dominican families on Tremont Avenue in the Bronx can't pay the rent that landlords ask. This will give you a good picture of what is a real situation. Zinsser, when he gives us a simple sentence, we can understand, everybody can understand. The officials are the people, everybody can understand. Here are some good nouns and Zinsser is happy with them. These are short, simple, old Anglo-Saxon nouns. Look at these simple words: house, home, child, chair, bread, milk, sea, sky, earth. These are the words in our bones. We are able to connect with our deepest emotions when we say home, child, chair, bread. When you say infant, you may not be able to connect with that so well, although infant means child. Avoid impressive and literary nouns, says Zinsser. Instead, he asks us to use Anglo-Saxon nouns and verbs. He calls them the second best tools of journalists. Remember, he addressed journalists at Columbia University. The second best tools of journalists are Anglo-Saxon nouns. Now we come to active verbs. According to William Zinsser, the best tools of a journalist are active verbs. We are all journalists in some way or the other. We write about ourselves, we write for others. So reporting, that's what we do, reporting of whatever we do. The first best tools of journalists are short, plain Anglo-Saxon verbs. It is always good to write with active verbs for clarity, warmth and vigor. When we are clear, we have a close relationship with the reader and there is some strength in our writing. We have to understand the difference between active and passive voice. We learn a lot about passive voice and start using them in our writings. It is better, he says, avoid passive voice as much as possible. Here are two examples, common examples. John saw the boys is active. So it is very short and also very strong. The next one, the passive form, is the boys were seen by John. It takes more words and it becomes weak in construction. So Zinsser says use short words, use dense words, use familiar words, use active words, use strong words, use specific nouns, use active voice and use positive language, cheerful language, optimistic language. Here is a good sample from Henry David Thoreau's Walden. Here is a beautiful passage. I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to friend only the essential facts of nature and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. Here is only one sentence, 44 words, 39 one-syllable words are there. Just 5 long words are there. And Zinsser says short is always better than long. Monosyllabic words, that is single syllable words, are better than disyllabic words or polysyllabic words. Zinsser has translated this into modern English in American English. See this? A decision was made to go to the woods because of a desire for a deliberate existence and for exposure to only the essential facts of life and for possible instruction in its education elements, and because of a concern that at the time of my death the absence of a meaningful prayer experience would be apprehended. This is the same meaning that we have in the previous quotation. I went to the woods because I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of nature and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. So this simple passage is converted into modern English, so difficult, but we are trained to write like this and we feel happy to write like this. According to Zinsser, this is bad writing. Here is one sentence, there are 57 words, 38 single syllable words are there, but 18 long words are included. And Zinsser says long is always worse than short. So avoid long words, use short words. Here are certain principles of good writing which will be useful to us. There are 4 principles: clarity, simplicity, brevity, humanity. We have put them together in abbreviation form like CSBH. Clarity means don't write if you are not clear. If you don't understand anything, if something is not clear to you, don't write. Simplicity means it's good, everyone will easily understand. Brevity is short. Short is always better than long. Short words and sentences are always better than long words and long sentences. Humanity is the best principle of all we have to realize. Be yourself, don't be like somebody else. Your product is finally you. Your writing is you, not somebody else's writing. There are 2 great models according to William Zinsser. One is Gay Talasy and another is John Didion. Gay Talasy is a writer, John Didion is another writer. We have an example essay from John Didion, we will discuss it in our course. Zinsser says, use good models. You can learn by imitation, imitating good writers. And most important lesson that we have to understand from this essay is, no writing course can help us. We have some courses in writing in English in colleges and schools. These writing courses may not help us. We have to learn ourselves by reading good writers. 2 of the good writers are Gay Talasy and John Didion. We have many other good writers in our course. For example, R.K. Narayan, George Orwell, Amish, Chetan Bhagat. You can read all of them including Abdul Kalam. There are many other writers. You can read them and see their models, see their writings and imitate them, and then of course find out your own way of writing. There are 2 final thoughts we said. The first final thought is all about writing for the new media. Now we live in the age of computers, mobile phones, smartphones, memes and other social media devices. All these good writing principles are applicable to the new media as well. Whether you write for some video scripts or audio scripts, use these good principles. Writing must be lean, tight and coherent. We have to have clarity, brevity and some sequence in our writing. How to write is all about how to organize. If we organize our thoughts well, our writing will also be well organized. So as we take notes, as we get some thoughts, organize our ideas well. We can also use some quotes in a proper narrative shape. So a narrative begins at the beginning, develops and then ends at the end. So writing is linear and sequential. All that Zinsser says is write logically. Of course you will have clarity, you will have simplicity, you will have humanity. The second final thought that we have is 1 thought per sentence. In 1 sentence you should not have more than 1 thought. Readers process 1 thought at a time. That is a logic that we have to understand. Use a period, put a full stop and then go to the next sentence. Don't keep on rambling. Rambler may be good for Samuel Johnson, not for us. Communications, new media and digital media are also forms of storytelling. All are storytelling. So simply ask the question and answer it. What happened? Then what happened? Go on explaining. Tell your story using the simple tools of English, the best tools of English, good nouns and good verbs. Here are some tips for good writing from Zinsser. First is short is better than long, short words and short sentences. Simple is always good. Long Latin nouns are the enemy of good writing. Anglo-Saxon active verbs are your best friend. Befriend them, use them every day. One thought per sentence is the rule that we have to follow. Tell your story in simple English without losing your humanity. When you don't write very clearly, when you don't communicate your ideas very clearly, you lose your humanity. We lose our warmth, we lose our friendliness, then we can't have much contact with our audience. So what we have seen in this presentation is the objectives set for ourselves to look into Zinsser's life and writings, the essay Writing English as a Second Language. Please remember, this was given as a talk at the Columbia School of Journalism and it was published later, and so we call it essay. We saw the structure of the essay, we found certain good principles of writing and also certain good aspects, dimensions of good English. We saw 3 sample letters which were later rewritten by Zinsser for us in simple English. We saw some bad nouns, good nouns and also active verbs. When we saw the sample from Thoreau Walden, we found it so good, we feel so good to read something which we can understand. And at all times it is good for us to follow the good principles of good writing. Zinsser, I am sure, will stay with you like George Orwell and help you to learn to write well and be a model for you throughout your life. Here are some references for you. Please go into these references and learn more about the use of English. Zinsser's essay was published in the American Scholar. I have given the link for you. You can collect the whole essay and read it and enjoy it yourself. There are many books on writing well. If possible, please buy a book and learn more about writing. Help yourself. All the very best.